The feralax is going to be quite a decent, hopefully, fingers crossed, Incarnon weapon. It's 8,000 standing for the blueprint. You need 10 pinion void plumes and 15 quill, 30, yeah. I'm not even hesitating on this one. Just insta-buy. Why? This is their Incarnon form. Don't really need to say much more than that. Felarx, however you want to pronounce this, 10 void, the pinions, that's annoying, 10 of them, but it leaves me enough for the rest of it, but it does take 24 hours to build, so of course we're going to build this. Felarx, sorry, and we go to upgrade, and this thing better have some decent polarities to it. There's one, it's a V. That's kind of a shame. As you could probably expect at this point, the only evolution available for the first one is of course the one that enables the Incarnon form. Headshots of course increase the Incarnon transmutation, but after that you have to kill 8 Xmas enemies with this weapon, in its Incarnon transmutation. Yeah. That was incredibly easy. Projectile speed, minus recoil, or accuracy while aiming. I'm sorry for this, we're going to have to go projectile speed. Minus recoil is kind of meaningless to be fair, but the projectile speed, yeah. The projectiles of this thing are actually pretty slow. Then there is land 20 headshots on Void Angels. This one made pretty much no sense. Reloading toggles between 100% projectile speed or 4 meters punch through, 50% magazine reloaded when holstered, or reload increases fire rate. Fire rate's kind of a bad thing for this. It's great for the Incarnon mode, but kind of bad for its standard mode, because the magazine is tiny. So I think I want to go for that one, so at least then you can put it away and it's going to reload itself. Gain 50% ammo efficiency while aiming. Aim gliding and sliding. 50% chance to deal 2000% damage on non-crit hits. And I did have a little bit of a play around with the evolutions and kind of, I don't even want to say honed it in at this point, but just the amount of forma it takes. I mean, I've only got 5 points left and I've had to put 5 formas into this thing, and it's just, I really want to say, considering it's supposed to be doing 19,500 damage, the semi mode is only doing 12 and a bit thousand. It's the semi mode that seems to actually be dealing the most damage, as you would have noticed from the numbers in the little bit of footage and the rest that's about to come. Yeah, the semi, the Incarnon form, has the higher damage even though it's doing less damage, but it's the projectile speed of these that kind of makes it one of those, if there is an enemy a little bit away from you or a little bit faster, you're going to have to swap to your secondary, so take a good secondary with you, because by the time you've shot where they're going to be, they've already passed there. Yeah, the travel time on these was, especially for the Incarnon, a bit slow. I was expecting this thing to be so much just better than it actually turned out to be. And don't get me wrong, as I said earlier, this thing has a lot of damage in its non-Incarnon form, and I never used it in full auto that much either. You look at an enemy, you pull the trigger, that enemy goes away. If they don't go away, you pull the trigger again, and then they usually go away, because the multi-shot of the normal one doesn't exist at all. You can see it in the stats when it looks at the semi, which is the Incarnon form. It takes the multi-shot from being a line that isn't even there if you look at it without a mod in. There's no multi-shot actually turning up here at all, because it doesn't actually have any. It only has 2.1 because Galvanized Hell is in there. Of course, for those who are going on about builds and everything else, this is basically multi-shot. Elemental Blaze is only in there because it has 60% damage with 90% damage from Vicious Spread. That does increase the spread ever so slightly, but this thing has such a grouping, it really didn't make much of a difference. Primed Point Blank, of course, and multi-shot. Oh, and projectile speed. That's why I didn't want to mention build earlier, but you can see the Incarnon form doesn't have multi-shot because it's not shooting multiple shots, it's shooting one round. At least that's how it seems. Which is a shame because they had a chance of making, what would it be, a dual-wielding Maradetron, a dual-wielding Bronco. There was such a way this thing could have been amazing if it was shooting multiple rounds for its Incarnon form. Even if it had a multi-shot of one, so it's shooting multiple rounds, then it would have been a dual-wielding shotgun secondary in a primary slot. But it wasn't. It's just shooting a single slug. And, yeah, okay. It's not that bad. It still deals a fair amount of damage, but it has a slow fire rate, no multi-shot. When it comes to dual-wielding weapons, there are better dual-wielding secondaries than this thing is in its Incarnon form, which is kind of sad to say. Hence, I would probably run this more on its non-Incarnon form than its Incarnon form, if it wasn't for the fact that the reload was slow. You reload it one round at a time. It's fine for me, but if you get into a situation where you are surrounded by enemies, it's another one of those. Shotguns are great, but you really do need a good secondary to go with it, otherwise you're gonna have a really bad experience. This had all the expectations of being absolutely amazing, and it still is. It's just that little bit of disappointment with the Incarnon form. It's just something about the Incarnon form felt kind of disappointing. Yes, I'm leaving this thing equipped. It is actually a pretty decent and powerful weapon in its normal form. In its Incarnon form, it does impact and radiation. In its normal form, it does impact, puncture, slash, and whatever elemental combo you add to it. It has a multi-shot of 4. Its Incarnon form doesn't have any. If you're doing normal missions, yeah, use this. Once the Incarnon form is kind of there, you use that because it is basically infinite ammo in its Incarnon form, which is a great thing to have. But the rest of the time, yeah. The Felarx is basically going to live in its standard form because of the lack of, again, if they just added multi-shot and made it pellets instead of a slug for the semi-mode, it would have been so much better. Oh, and get rid of that travel time because the fall off on this is ridiculous. But as it sits, it's better in its non-Incarnon form than it is in its Incarnon form. Sad to say, but it's true. Both still powerful, but it just felt lackluster. There's only a handful of weapons in Warframe that are kind of disappointing over what you expect from them. This is the second time in the second update in a row that they have released something that you expect a lot from, but it turns out to not be anywhere near what it should be and what they promised it would be. It happened with the Incarnon Tonfas, because I can never remember the name of the Praetos, and it's kind of happened with the Felarx. I was expecting dual-wielding shotguns. Instead, what you ended up with is a dual-wielding single-fire weapon. Kind of disappointing over what they had kind of said, but it says they're a pair of pistols, not a pair of shotguns, so it takes a shotgun, turns it into a pistol. I was really hoping it was going to be a dual-wielding shotgun. It would have been so much better as one of those than a pistol. But with that, yes, slightly disappointed with it because I was expecting so much more, but it's still a fairly decent weapon. It's still worth it. And I still think they've got the order of the Incarnon weapons upside down. And with that, we'll leave this off here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.